Hey everyone, it's Simone, and I am so excited to be with you all today. I'm here with Bella Crystal, and we're going to do another soul conversation. Bella, why don't you tell everyone what we're doing today?
We're tapping into the energy of Gene Key and Gate 18 and no, 48 actually. I'm 1 week late. So we are still in the 18. We're moving into the 48 and we decided to do the 48 already today. And in the 64 doors, this is a little like pre snippet. We are calling it the librarian because it's somebody who has an enormous well of knowledge. And even if it hasn't read all the books in the library, you can ask it and it's going to tell you about the author. It's going to tell you about the genre. So it's a really cool archetype. And yeah, I hope that everybody taps into it when we open the door in the 64 doors. And what we are going to do today is a little bit different. We are going to use Simone's genius to tap into the 48 and see what comes through, kind of showing you. I mean, Simone is a professional, but we can all tap into the energy of the archetypes. And this is one way of doing it that really always is so playful. So if you are coming on, please ask questions. If you have the 48 in your profile, of course, ask about that. If you don't have the 48 and just have a curious question, please play with us. I think that's all. Did I forget anything, Simone?
No, that was great. And if just maybe if whether you're live with us for the questions or whether you tune in later, please just ask away. Bella and I both check the postings and we respond. So we love to play with you and co-create with you. So, all right, well, let's see what the 48 has to say. The first thing that the 48 said to me was worlds of wonder. And then there was this image of a sun, just like imagine the morning sun coming over the horizon, and you get the flash of light. That was the very first picture in the first words. And the 48 says, "Oh my, there's so much to explore." She looks to the left and he looks to the right. So I'm going to maybe use they because the 48 is coming through in both masculine and feminine energy. So they look to the left and they look to the right and they're like, well, which way do we go? Where do we explore? There's so much to do and see and experience. And they're super, super excited. So let's see. As they look to the left and they look to the right, they lifted their heart up. And it's like they're letting their heart choose the way that they explore. And the universe inside of the 48 comes out through this heart-centered exploration. So the way they showed me that was they lifted their heart like to the sun. And when they started to do that, it was like the universe inside of the 48 started unfolding, kind of blooming out of the heart. And it's like the universe, the heartfelt universe inside of them, the lived experience of the universe inside of them, all that is inside of them, when they allow that to come through their heart, the exploration is so much deeper, and they also say challenging. So when you use all of you to explore, how does that both deepen the experience and create challenges? They just flashed the word foresight, and they also flashed the word perception or perception. So on the one hand, they're showing us that, when we move from our heart-centered consciousness, we have so much more to explore because we have, in a sense, so much more bandwidth. But also they're showing that when we have fixed, set perceptions, we don't open to the bandwidth. And they're showing me that we don't open up to the bandwidth within us, nor do we open up to the bandwidth outside of us, without us. Sometimes my guides will say without us, or the soul will say without us, and that just means not inside of us, but on the outer, outside of our own souls. So they're saying, like, would you go on a picnic without all your resources? So would you go on a journey without, taking what you need or what is available to you? And they say that what's available to you is everything inside of you. And they're like, don't forget it. Whether you deem that is hard or whether you deem that is easy, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong about what's inside of you. It's just, it's the meat, the juice, the loveliness of you, no matter what your perception of your lived experience is. The 48 is saying, this is your resource, this is your home base, and use it all on your journey. And when you do, it's like the most exciting journey. And it's like, they showed me, like, you can go to France, and maybe you had somebody in your family who spoke French, and maybe you don't know that many words, but you have this lived experience of somebody who was French, and you go to France, and then suddenly you already have a connection to them. So it doesn't matter what the depth or breadth of your experience is in terms of each particular thing, that just activating it inside of you, acknowledging it, being aware of it, and bringing all of you to the table when you explore, they're like, that's the cream. That's and again, this is not about, I love the way that the 48 used the word cream, because, cream is like the best, it rises up. And it's not a value statement. It's not a good or bad. It's just what rises up. And so they're like, use the cream of you, use what rises up in all of your explorations, and let that motivate and guide you. They show me that what's in you is your compass. It's what guides you. It's like, do I turn left or right here? And you go inside of yourself and your body shows you the way. Oh, go to the left. And that's you tapping into the wisdom of you, the everything that's in you. Those are your resources, your assets. And when you don't have like an answer in your mind, the 48 is showing you, go into your body. It's all there. It's stored in there. Whether you've activated it or not, whether you value it or not, it's there. It's waiting for you to move from, to use as your come from, to have the experience with the wholeness of you. And the 48 is on this journey, and I'm watching the journey. They're like, it's almost like down this pathway. And as the 48 goes, it doesn't just look forward or ahead. It kind of like takes moments where it turns around 360 degrees, and it's taking everything in. So that's almost like a spiraling. I used to, it reminds me of when I was younger, my dad and I used to ride bikes out in the countryside together. And he was so much faster than me, and I would be riding my bike, and he would ride his bike around me as we went along. And that's what the 48 is doing. It's like going on the journey, but not just looking in one direction, looking all around to see the beauty of each step in the journey, and to really enjoy that whole journey from that wholehearted awareness and acceptance of everything that's within. The 48 is, as I'm tuning into the 48 is super joyful and excited about the journey, you know. It's interesting to see how. And the 48 looked at me and said, "Of course, I'm excited about the journey. I'm in union." And so, you know, tying back to at the beginning where I was like, she, he, oh, that it's coming through as a union of masculine and feminine energy. And she's like, "Of course, I'm happy. I'm in union. I'm whole." And then she just kind of, they started laughing. Um, and they're saying to me, "We want to traverse the field in union. And we hope that you want to traverse with us in your own union, in your own joining of the sacred marriage of your divine feminine and your divine masculine." And they actually, they were together in this vessel that was talking to me, and they split into feminine and masculine. And then they held out their hands to us, like they wanted to hold hands with us, and they invite us in. And they say, "Of course, we invite you into sacred union with us." Um, and they show, it was very interesting geometry. They were holding hands with me, but then with other beings. And then they showed me how, um, by holding hands with the 48 and being in that sacred union of the self and having that experience with them, it was like the geometry moved into me, and then I was able to share it with other people. And then it moved, I was watching them hold hands with all of you who are here, and watching that vibration of sacred union in the self. They say the vibration from them creates a desire in each person who wants to hold hands with the 48 and journey with the 48 and love with the 48 through the 48. That's such a beautiful, when they said that, love with the 48, be in union with the 48, I got covered in chicken skin. It was so powerful to receive that invitation. And I hope that each of you who are with us today is able to receive the invitation from the 48 to be in union and explore and traverse the journey with the 48. And then they showed me a vibration coming out of their hearts, and it reminds me of, if you've ever seen dolphins blow like bubbles, or they play with those bubbles that almost have, they're like a sphere that has a vibratory field, almost like a rainbow field around the bubble. They are almost shooting out bubbles from their heart. And they say that's how much we love the journey. And they say, don't be concerned that you don't know what's going to happen on the journey. It's okay for you to not know what's going to be on the journey. But when you are united with yourself and what's inside of you, all of it, and you receive yourself, you accept yourself, that it doesn't matter that you don't know, because you know you have everything you need to traverse. And they're saying, when you hold yourself in union, while there's uncertainty, there's no not knowing that you might not know the tree that you're going to experience, or the body of water, or what the terrain will be like, or who you'll meet on your path. But when you know yourself, the journey is never unknown. And then they also say that through the journey, you learn more and more about yourself. So when you start with everything you have, there is a building process and an unfolding process, and you learn more and more and more about yourself. And now they're showing me like they're on their journey, and they suddenly got these backpacks, and it's like the backpack of them, and they're still walking divine feminine and divine masculine kind of separate, but together. And they took off these backpacks, and they're like, don't need this right now. Don't want this anymore. There's like a discernment process going on with them about, yeah, I have this knowing, I have this wisdom inside of me, I had this experience inside of me. And simultaneously, it's like they're saying, I don't need to perceive the world through it. So it's almost like showing us that sometimes in our backpacks of the self, we are carrying things that we perceive or use to perceive the world. And they're saying, like, how can you perceive the world that you traverse not through a petal, but through the whole flower, not through the perception of the limitation of one petal, but how can you go as the whole flower? And how can you use all that you are to be in the experience? And it's so fascinating how they're showing me. I've seen these animations where you can see a flower blooming and all the little petals keep coming out. And then sometimes the animation is reversed, and it's like all the little petals are coming in. And why did y'all show me that? Oh, they say because you're constantly taking in and you're constantly radiating out. And they're saying, we're just encouraging you to do it with all of you. So I'm asking them if there's any other part of the main message. And they're just saying they'd like to talk to Bella. Bella, what would you like to bring to our conversation here?
I love it, and I always feel like taking it back to kind of earth as well. And what I felt was, we know that in the Gene Keys we're speaking about the 48 as the code or the coding for the EQ, and that is the developmental cycle from 7 to 14. And what I felt, is this, holding out their hands, and they just want to dance and love the journey. And I'm thinking about children, maybe even when they're even younger, but the children that have grown up with parents that are, good parents that are giving them boundaries and at the same time freedom and all that, like, children can, up in that age as well, be like that, be completely open in their heart. They start to understand emotion. They start to connect with others. And for me, there's a kind of innocence, and something that I feel when I listen to the 48 is like, this is how we're supposed to be. Like, that's the sad thing when we close off from that, because it's so human and it's so beautiful to be able to connect in that way, and like just really, hold out our hands. So that's what I'm feeling when I listen to the 48.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as I was listening to the 48, yeah, that I was taken into the body of the child that you were talking about. Like, as you were talking, I could see they actually materialized the child, and I could feel the wonder inside of the child and the acceptance of self inside the child that you brought forth shamanically. And how at that time many people aren't, conditioned to process different parts of themselves. There's still, the totality of who they are in their wonder of that. And yeah, super, super cool. I'm asking the 48 if they have anything else they want to add to that. And they just said, no, they love that you brought that childlike sense into it and that you truly got the invitation to traverse with them. And they're saying, imagine if we were all in union from that very, in the union of the self, continually without any break in the trajectory on the journey. Imagine what the world would be like if we were able to be whole in ourselves. They're saying it's not that there wouldn't be conflict or contrast, because every person is different and is here for different things. But imagine to have every experience you ever have in from the place of wholeness, of unity of self, and what an amazing um, journey that they just showed me. It's like, imagine if we were on a journey and we came to a creek, and we had to jump from stone to stone to get across the creek. But then imagine that each stone we jumped to was like a higher and higher and higher and higher vibration as we went along on our journey. Yeah, super fun.
And I don't think we have a lot of questions today. So maybe this was kind of, it feels like it was more like a transmission than a conversation today, which is beautiful. Is there anything else, Simone, that I know that this is I probably want to ask you, because I think this is your core wound, right? Your
Yeah.
vocation in a 6 line. So you have this imprint. It's like your soul came in to work with this. The way that I see the core wound is the task that the soul said, okay, let me work with this. Let me work with this and be a human being that can live this in my physical, my emotional, and my mental, like IQ, EQ, and SQ. So would you say anything about, I would say, the journey from the core wound to the vocation in the 48, the way that you have experienced it?
Wow, what a great question. There have certainly been times in my life where I felt inadequate. And, got a little teary there. And when I move from inadequacy, it's like climbing a mountain. It's just like climbing a mountain. And I can want to retreat, into myself. And yet I know sometimes when I face the shadow frequency, I'll often go to my evolution sphere, which is 35, which is adventure, and I'll ask myself the question, how do you want to have this experience? Do you want an adventure? Or do you want to continue to be in this frequency of inadequacy? And somehow that helps me shift from the inadequacy, because I know that I'm not inadequate, right? I know that I'm very capable. But when I use my 35 to help me pivot, which is beautiful, right? Because that's my evolution. So, I can evolve by asking myself questions to help me pivot, out of that. Sometimes I just heard the question, and it's true. I'll ask myself, how do you feel inadequate right now? Or why do you feel inadequate? And that helps me pivot. But I will say about and it's not a but, and I will say that I'm the person that you want on the journey, because I am super resourceful. When I've gotten on airplanes and I'm only 5 foot tall, and I've had flight attendants ask me, "Are you sure you want to be in the exit row?" And I'm like, "Trust me, you want me on, in an emergency, because I'm super resourceful. And maybe it is because of my line 6 and my line 4s, that I'm able to see, oh, here we can solve this way. We can solve, like, so I'm super resourceful. But I have to, as a 4/6 projector, I have to watch that I'm not super resourceful and handing all the resources to people who don't want to hear. Like, if I haven't been invited to share the resourcefulness, then it can just, like, I can toss it out there and it just falls flat. But yeah, and also the wisdom of I can really relate to when the 48 talks about accepting all of who you are. I've had so many powerful experiences in my life where I've just looked at my relationship. I can especially just say, like, my relationship with my parents have truly shifted into really magical and beautiful ways that I never expected with my parents, when I go to the wisdom of me, which is all of me, and I just face it head on, like the whole range of my experience. And I can say, well, yeah, I had this, and yeah, I had that, and I'm a good person because of that, all of that totality. And when I communicate from the totality of who I am, not rejecting any part of me, it is magical what happens. It's true, like, really experiencing quantum leaps of consciousness, not only for myself, but for the person, like, I've shared an experience I've had with my dad with you, and, just how my whole goal was just to speak from my heart using all of me. And, the healing and the magic that has occurred from that. So I love the 48. Like, when we were doing the 48 for the 64 doors, it was so magical, and I just really, really relate to the 48. And yeah, I mean, even it drove my career, because my career outside of shamanic work was that I was a college professor for 26 years, teaching people how to research and write and communicate. So that resourcefulness, and the, teaching other people how to share their wisdom, what was inside of them. And, all my college teaching career, I used to say to my students, I've always said to my students that, you're so wise. You have so much wisdom inside of you. If we can just, learn how to share that wisdom inside of you in a way that other people can receive, how powerful will that be for you and for everyone else? So I think the 48 has been a hallmark of my life, not only, now, but even before I even knew what the Gene Keys were. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I love the 48.
No, I love it, Simone. And I have the 16 in my personality Mercury, my sphere of relating. So your vocation and my sphere of relating, they make this electromagnetic channel. And I feel like that's partly, it's the channel of wavelength, or the channel of talent. And, I feel when we come together that we have the versatility, and we also have the depth. And we, like, we play with it. So there is that playfulness. And we're always like, what do we tap into today? There's always this kind of ease about it. And sometimes it's going really deep, and sometimes it's really versatile. And it's beautiful to have that to create that whole channel together. For sure.
So exciting. So exciting. Thank you for the invitations to play. My projector is always so grateful for the generators in my life, and manifesting generators. Like, I love you. I love to come play with you all.
And actually, that 48 is bridging my split. I have a split where my G center and my throat are by themselves, and then I have my generator. So for me, it also feels like I'm more whole when that. And sometimes I feel like I'm trying myself to become whole by going deep and being the 48. But I feel like there is something magical when you actually have the transits, when you have other people coming in and filling in those hanging gates and creating those harmonics, those electromagnetics. So
I love it. I can feel it too. I can actually, what you said about me, I feel that when we work, then you bridge for me, but I also feel it with other people when that's happening, and it's super fun. Not only when I feel like I'm bridging for someone else, and I can actually feel that, or when they're helping me bridge some place within me. Don't you just love that? It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and more when you have a relationship over like more long term, you can see those dynamics because both you see the transits over the year, and then you have different situations, different things that happen, and you see kind of like it becomes more clear over time. That's why I also trust Richard Rudd so much when he says that staying in relationship, it's really where you can learn so much about yourself, so much about the other, and so much about the dynamics of what it is to be human. So
Yeah.
that's so.
This relates to something you and I often talk about. What is the one? I'm not the memorizer, but where we stay too long, we can stay too long. You and I both have it. So it's the key where you stay too long, and or you resolve. You have the resolve, and you
The resolve is the, I don't even remember which gene key
was
that
it
is.
the 18? Is it the 18 or no?
Oh yeah, that's the 40. Yeah, so you're 40. The divine will. That's
Yeah.
the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So you and I've talked about this, about the divine will piece. So yeah, I tend to stay in relationships
Yeah, I
long
think I
past
tend to
when other
stay.
people.
There's so many reasons to stay too long as well. I have the 38-28, which is like that kind of struggle, like to the last drop of blood. And yeah, I can see the 40 that exhausts itself because it has that hope that the faith. Yeah, and thank you, Lois. We can always count on you when our
Yeah.
brains are like not with us. Actually, I'm gonna have to go. I see that Miriam asked a question about the pattern and having to do with money. I'm wondering, maybe Simone, we can answer that like written or something if there is anything, because I actually have to. I have to run.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Miriam, we'll catch you in the chat. Thanks for that great question. We love you guys. Until next time,
Bye bye.
take care.